I still have the text, not because I couldn't delete it, but because some part of me needed to see it again, to memorize every syllable, every abrupt punctuation. No more intimacy. Deal with it. That was it. No explanation, no prelude, just a flick of her thumb, and my entire world tilted. The floor beneath me cracking in invisible lines. I stared at the screen longer than sanity allowed. That numb, disbelieving pause when your brain refuses to process something utterly incomprehensible. That's what it felt like trying to wedge a jagged shard of grief into a hollow cavity of trust. At first, I told myself it was a joke, some cruel, twisted prank. But Heather, my wife, was never the joking type. Not anymore, at least not about us. I didn't reply. I didn't send anything. I simply sat on the edge of the bed, phone sliding into my lap, letting the silence stretch and settle like dust over a neglected room. Slowly, I began peeling back the last several months, trying to pinpoint the exact moment the warmth had leaked from our marriage, trying to understand how the foundation I had spent years reinforcing had quietly corroded. Heather and I had been married 8 years. The first three were brilliant, filled with laughter, late-night confessions, and touches that lingered. The next two were steady, comfortable, but predictable. The last three, though, the last three were a slow, suffocating drift into emotional exile. I told myself it was a phase, the pressure of work, the stress of life bearing down, as it does in every marriage. She saw it differently. She saw it as a sign, a cue, an open invitation to redraw the lines of control. And apparently sending a message that she would no longer touch, love, or desire me over text was a perfectly reasonable method of communication. That night, she came home late, barely looked at me, dropped her keys in the dish, nodded once, and vanished into the bathroom. The sound of the shower running echoed through the apartment for over an hour. When she emerged, wet hair slicked back, cup of tea in hand, she walked past me into the guest room as though I didn't exist. The bed, once a sanctuary, felt enormous, now hollow. Cold. For the first time in years, I didn't chase. I didn't knock. I didn't draft some desperate message asking what I had done wrong. I lay there staring at the ceiling thinking, okay, let's deal with it. In the days that followed, a quiet shift occurred within me. No sudden cinematic break, no ring-flinging theatrics. This was surgical. I stopped checking if she wanted dinner, stopped asking if she was okay when her mood soured, stopped making excuses for why she no longer laughed at my jokes or met my gaze. I didn't stop caring. I stopped chasing. For years, I'd believed that if I worked harder, showed up more, provided more, supported more, gave more of myself, she would notice that one day she'd look at me the way she used to, like I mattered. But when someone draws a line and tells you to deal with it, the only fair response is to take them at their word. She believed she could withhold affection and still command my loyalty. That night, something in me shifted, not broken, not defeated, but freed. A week later, subtle signs began to emerge. Her phone buzzed with messages I wasn't included in. Laughter floated from rooms where I wasn't welcome. Excuses to stay late. Team drinks, workshops, events she couldn't miss. And Tessa, her best friend, appeared with increasing frequency, wine in hand, whispers and giggles behind closed doors. I started noticing. Not looking for revenge, not yet, but observing, cataloging, piecing together a new dictionary of meaning, because clearly we were no longer speaking the same language. The clues were small, almost imperceptible. A trace of unfamiliar perfume when she left the house at 7. Her phone angled away on the couch. An unknown number swiped away quickly, paired with a subtle glance of guilt or fear when she thought I wasn't watching. And the biggest red flag? Tessa, Heather's confidant, loyal since college, now too involved, too present. One night, I overheard them laughing after I'd gone upstairs, finally putting him in his place. I didn't need the rest. A line had been drawn, and I was finally seeing who had helped sketch it. I didn't rage. I didn't storm the stairs. I didn't even finish the scotch I poured. I quietly walked to my study, opened my laptop, and began a list. A precise, calculated list. Deal with it? All right then, let's deal. I didn't change overnight. That would have been obvious, childish. Instead, I adapted subtly. The first step, I stopped being available, not as punishment, simply as symmetry. If intimacy was off the table, so too were the small comforts she had come to expect without noticing. No more shoulder rubs during her venting sessions, no spontaneous dinners, no weekend errands where I tagged along silently. Even the minor repairs I had always handled, loose cabinet drawers, flickering bathroom lights, went ignored. When she noticed, I met her eyes. "You're smart," I said. "You'll figure it out." Heather's reaction? Silence. A polite, measured neutrality that had come to define our marriage. The house had become a professional workspace. Logistics managed, no fights, no affection, no warmth. Just two people coordinating the bare minimum of cohabitation. Yet absence has weight. The first morning she remarked, "You haven't made coffee lately?" I shrugged. "Thought you wanted space." She blinked and walked away. Astonishing how quickly people notice what is missing when it has been taken, even if the body remains present. Tessa's visits intensified. Each time I passed through, I received a performative smile. Heather's eyes said, "Play nice." Tessa's voice, "I dare you to ask." I didn't. I had begun documenting. Not like a paranoid stalker, but like a surgeon taking notes. Late nights, unexplained outfits, timing of meetings, every hint of deviation from her stories. Denise, a coworker, casually remarked, "I think I saw your wife the other night. That rooftop sushi place?" My face remained neutral. I knew green dress. Too deliberate. Heather had not been with colleagues. She had been performing, validating herself elsewhere. The picture crystallized from that night onward. I withdrew further, but in precision. Shoulder rubs? Gone. Spontaneous dinners? Gone. Emotional labor? Withdrawn. My presence remained. My silence expanded. Coffee unmade. Late nights unaccompanied. Loose screws and flickering lights ignored. Every omission, every withheld gesture became a mirror, reflecting back what Heather had stolen for herself. Heather came home late that night, her posture tight, shoulders rigid, heels clicking against the hardwood. Her bag slung over her shoulder, eyes flicking past me like I was part of the scenery. I was at the kitchen counter, eating takeout from the container, something I hadn't done in years. She noticed, lingered, expected me to react. "You didn't cook?" she asked, careful, almost testing. "Nope," I replied, deliberately neutral. "Oh," she said, letting the silence stretch, waiting for a response that would never come. For years, I would have filled that gap, offered reassurance, excuses, explanations. Not tonight, not anymore. I finished my meal slowly, savoring the cold, quiet taste of victory. The following weeks were deliberate, surgical. I stopped wearing my wedding ring. She noticed but didn't comment. I joined a gym, ate cleaner, gained lean muscle, lost weight, changes made silently, observed but not acknowledged. I stayed late at work, sometimes sitting alone at a bar, watching couples, singles, people striving to connect. Heather wasn't trying, not with me, not with herself, not even with the life she pretended to lead. She had weaponized my devotion, my patience, and assumed I would remain a passive participant. Then came the revelation I hadn't anticipated, but should have seen coming. I hadn't been asleep that night when she thought I was. I went down for water and overheard their voices. Heather and Tessa. Whispering. Planning. "I think he's finally getting it. Pulled back cold as hell lately." "Good. Maybe now he'll see how much he relied on you. Maybe he'll appreciate what he lost." And then laughter. Soft, satisfied, intimate. In that moment, clarity hit me. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about control, power, manipulation. The text wasn't intimacy withdrawn. It was a weapon. I didn't act in anger. I didn't confront immediately. I observed, withdrew, with precision, no comfort, no reassurance, no excuses. Every absence mirrored the vacuum she had created, every silence a counterbalance to the emotional debt she had accrued. Heather began to notice. Slight hesitation before leaving the house. Double checks in mirrors. Subtle questions about plans I hadn't shared. Invitations I didn't accept. Each interaction a test. Measuring distance. Probing boundaries. And I allowed her to feel it. To sense that control, once taken for granted, was no longer hers. 2 days later, Tessa arrived uninvited, confident, smug, as if she were stepping onto the stage she had helped construct. "Heather home?" she asked, scanning the kitchen. I didn't check the peephole. "Nope," I said. "So, you two doing okay?" she asked, carefully casual, a veiled challenge. I turned slowly, deliberately. No warmth, no false politeness, only measured clarity. "We're doing whatever she wants us to be doing," I said. Tessa tilted her head, amusement flickering in her eyes. "You've been distant, ice cold," she said. "She's observant," I replied. "But it takes one to know one." A pause. Her confidence faltered. "I was trying to help her," she murmured. "No," I said quietly. "She needed someone to feed the part of her that wanted power. You just wanted a front row seat." Tessa didn't deny it, didn't need to. Silence stretched like a taut wire. Her mirthless laugh and slow retreat said it all. I recorded it, every word. Evidence, truth, clarity. Heather came home early that night. She was tired, not the cosmetic kind, not the physical kind, but the soul-weary exhaustion of someone realizing the control she relied on was slipping. She hovered near the kitchen island, tentative, uncertain. "You've been looking great lately," she said, almost as if testing the waters. I said nothing, then the question she couldn't avoid. "Is there someone else?" I laughed quietly, controlled, deliberate. "No," I said, "but you've definitely made room for someone, haven't you?" Her eyes widened. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You can't be surprised when someone stops showing up after you've bolted the door," I said, letting the weight of every withheld touch, every absence, every strategic silence press against her. She stepped forward, voice cracking. "You're twisting it. You shut down first." "No," I replied calmly. "You ended intimacy over text. Remember? Deal with it." "That's what you said." And I did. Shock, disbelief, and doubt passed across her face. Her carefully constructed facade was beginning to crumble. The seeds of accountability had been planted, and Tessa wouldn't stay silent. People like her rarely do. Slowly, truth peeled back layer by layer. For Heather, the unraveling began on a Tuesday. She came home early, more rehearsed than natural. "Can we talk?" she asked, almost performing, almost measuring my reaction. I closed my laptop and set it on the table. "Sure," I said. She perched at the edge of the couch, hands clasped, energy taut. "Tessa said you threatened her," she said. Nervously, I laughed softly, quiet and controlled. "I didn't threaten her. I observed. She's been a mirror for you. You just liked what you saw." Heather tried to protest. I cut her off. "Do you want to know what she said when I wasn't around?" I recorded it. She told me how she encouraged you to push away, to feel powerful, to live in the illusion of reclaiming something you weren't. She was. Heather froze, trembling, not with rage but with exposure. I leaned forward, voice soft but cutting. "She laughed at you, said I was sharper than you thought, that you made me out to be dull. You didn't stop to wonder what would happen when you withdrew love. You assumed I'd stay silent, stretched, and I did stay, until you drew the line." Panic crept into her voice. "Where are you going?" "Upstairs," I said, calm. "Guest room until the papers are final." Her voice cracked. "The attorney—" "You divorced me over a text," I interrupted, sharp but steady. "No, I'm divorcing you over what followed it." The next day, she called in sick. I heard her pacing, crying into the phone. I didn't intervene. I waited, observed. Every omission, every withheld gesture pressed against the walls of her constructed reality. Every late-night whispered word, every betrayal cataloged, documented, preserved. Weeks passed. Heather attempted normalcy, tried to regain control. She couldn't. Every measure of influence she had wielded slipped, imperceptibly but irrevocably. When she finally sought to confront me alone, I gave her the unvarnished truth. Every manipulation, every hidden motive, every calculated action had been observed, understood, recorded. My voice, calm and unwavering, landed like hammers striking steel, precise, undeniable, irreversible. She did not argue. She did not shout. She simply absorbed it, stunned, facing consequences she had meticulously engineered. And in that silence, I recognized a profound truth. Love cannot survive where control rules. Devotion cannot flourish where manipulation reigns. I walked away, not in anger, not with revenge, but with clarity, with freedom, with the unshakable knowledge that I had reclaimed myself. The text still exists, a relic of the moment everything changed. No more intimacy. Deal with it. I did, but on my terms, measured, controlled, and final, I survived. I walked past the ruins, past betrayal, past manipulation, into the quiet, hard power of my own life. And finally, for the first time in years, I felt unbroken.